is a consultant company located in Milan, and that is a consultant company for project and policies in the field of sustainability and urban innovation, for public administration and corporates. And so we decided together with Milan Municipality to promote these conversations around this the theme of city and education and the interplay between the two, as in our view a fruitful and interesting theme for the European Bauhaus. And we met the interest of Eurocities. Many thanks to Masha and particularly to Annalisa Boni that has joined us in this conversation, and Eurocities has helped us to disseminate this conversation, these events to the members of the association, and to help also in networking for this initiative. We think that promoting sustainability and innovation implies to build and strengthen people capabilities. This is our starting point when we approach the theme, that the issue of the urban sustainability, urban innovation in our, when I say our, I mean from Avanzi and from Milan Municipality too, because today we will listen to, for example, Annibale presenting a very interesting project and policy promoted by Milan Municipality in this field, in education in the city for an urban regeneration program. So we think that sustainability and innovation implies strengthening people capabilities. We have two past conversations around this topic. The first one in 29th of April, if I remember well, particularly for inclusiveness, meeting, the title of this conversation was supporting the capacity to aspire. And in this conversation, we presented some cases and experiences, initiatives from Bologna, Milan, and Naples that were initiatives focused on, we could say, people-oriented initiatives. The idea was to work with people in order to use the city, the space of the city, the urban spaces as a sort of tool to increase and to strengthen the capacity of the people to imagine a different future, a different opportunity, and new opportunities for them. They are, as we could say, using the words by Arjuna Padurai, their capacity to aspire. In a second conversation that we held in 6th of May, the title was Educating into and through the City, Schools and Community Hubs. We tried to we presented policies, examples, initiatives that was like schools, the new organization and the opportunity to open up the spaces of the schools in order to open these spaces to the city, to the neighborhood, in order to create a sort of common ground and a trading zone, we could say, between schools and the urban space, schools and the city and the neighborhood. But also we presented cases from, always from Milan and particularly from Modena in this case, in which, for example, new community centers, community hubs, as we define them, can host and realize and create educational opportunities, educational activities for kids and for, in general, for people. So the topic of this second conversation was how to the schools, even the same schools, can become a sort of community centers, and at the same time, community centers can become and can play the role of educational centers. In this third conversation, the conversation of today, we will try to, we will have new experience, new initiatives from Milan, from Ghent, and from Madrid, and trying to introduce perhaps a new point of view. We will start from Ghent with Agnieszka, and the case of Ghent, it's very interesting in our view, according to our point of view, because is a process of the construction of a new neighborhood, the regeneration of a derelict part of the city of Ghent, the waterfront, and this process of regeneration was always, if I understood well, an educational program for people and a program of empowering people in order to use this process as an opportunity to build a sort of learning community. And the second case from Madrid that we will present it by Miguel Jaenicke is in this case is an experience of learning communities, a project promoted by Madrid Municipality, in which the learning community is the central topic of this project, of this policy, and Miguel will present us this case. And the third case comes from Milan, presented by Annibale. Milan Municipality, the name of this very interesting case is La Scuola dei Quartieri, the school for neighborhoods, perhaps is the correct translation. And Annibale will present us this program that is a project in the field of social innovation and urban regeneration, even for specific target areas in Milan Municipality. Our goal, the goal of Avanzi and Milan Municipality, obviously, is to harvest ideas and suggestions from these three conversations, and to write and to elaborate a final paper, how to say, a position paper concerning this topic by the end of July. This is our program in order to contribute to the discussion to the co-design phase of the European Bauhaus. So thanks to our to the participants, and we will have this first round of presentation for the three cases, and then 15 minutes each, as we agreed with our contributors. Thanks for your very kind participation. And then we will start a second session, having some discussant with us, with Annalisa Boni, General Secretary of the General Secretariat of Eurocities, General Secretary of Eurocities. Thanks, Annalisa, to joining us. Alessandro Rancati from JRC, Joint Research Center. That Alessandro is Joint Research Center is the agency of the Commission responsible for the construction of the concept of an European Bauhaus, if I understood well. And so Alessandro is now a sort of friend of our conversation, because very kindly has followed all these three conversations. And we will waiting for Mario Bischof from Leipzig Municipality, that is responsible vice chair of the working group of Eurocities on education. So, and we will have this second session, I hope, having a fruitful discussion on this thing, on this second session. Okay, let's start. Thank you very much for your kind participation. And let's start with Agnieszka from the Sogent, that is the, now Agnieszka can share her presentation from Sogent, that is the development agency of Ghent Municipality for the regeneration of the waterfront. So please, Agnieszka, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claudio. I'm very glad to be here and to share the project of Ghent. I'll try to fix everything in this time of 15 minutes, so I'll go rather quick through some slides, but if you ever have any more questions or would like to know a little bit more about the project, do not hesitate to contact me afterwards. Maybe first some news about how is what we are talking about the city of Ghent. So we are like a third city in Belgium with around 260,000 inhabitants, and we have moreover than 75,000 students. So it's really kind of a very livable city of culture, of arts, of a lot of activities, and also very quite multicultural city of Belgium. This was a city who was known as a flourishing port city. It was the second city in Middle Ages after Paris, but then afterwards it lost its importances. And with the years, the city had to restart recovering the water backbone and restart refounding itself. And those pictures are showing to you how it was a rediscovery in the city with the water looking like. This was how in the 70s the city was looking like in the 80s. So all the original water backbones was fulfilled. And this is how it's looking like today. So we are opening the city water backbone again. And why we are doing this is because we are trying to really create a very livable city. We want to make this transition, and we are doing this having a strong tradition of strategic urban planning. We have a very nice spatial structure vision. We had it one in 1993. Now we are working on the other one from 2030. And we are doing this not only on huge water backbone structures, like the project of Old Dockyards, which I'm going to talk about, but we are also doing this on a small scale acupuncture interventions. And we are also doing this on the level of mobility. We really believe that it's slower means faster. And we introduced as the first city in Belgium, even the bike streets and even a new sign for Belgium, where the bikes as a priority before the cars. And today we have really a nice open city center full of pedestrians and full of economical functions, because this was very important to tell. It's not because of you are pushing some kind of traffic out of the city that will result in, for example, in a worse economical situation. We can improve that it's working the other way. And also trying to work together with inhabitants, making some bottom-up small projects, for example, like here, a small example of a standard sitter, where Sogent, my office, bought a huge piece of ground situated in the 19th century city belt, and then together with the neighborhood, trying to open this, to create more park, more public spaces, and some functions who can be used by everyone by creating small buildings who can be used for neighborhoods. So this was the small introduction about the city. Next to the small scale, we have a really huge scale revitalization of old docks into the new district. This is situated very close by to the city center. It's like 500 meters from it. And already in 2004, we started with the master plan, who was drawn and won by Office for Metropolitan Architecture, who gave us very easy and quite clear idea about how we can rediscover those old docks. By proposing kind of brochette satay model. So we are trying to alternate, put some building areas and to alternate them with some green areas who are then becoming new public spaces. In this project, we aim a realization of around 1,200 houses. They are going to be social housing as well, affordable housing, free market housing of 60%, and also student houses as well. And we're also trying to introduce some extra functions like offices, schools, higher education, kindergarten, sport hall, and a little bit of shops. So this new area for 3,000 inhabitants is arising today, and it's really quite knowing a very approach which we were really thinking how we are going to do it. So we didn't want to put a new area without participation and co-creation with inhabitants. We really tried to think it how we can do it citywide and not a kind of overthinking. You've seen we started in 2004, so we can really call this project like a slow urbanism. Those 15, 16 years that we are working on this project, we received a lot of new insights, and we are trying each time to learn of each step that we are doing and to put those new ideas into the realization. And of course, as the end of the results, we hope to create a very sustainable neighborhood. We have a lot of public partnerships in this project. We need to remove the new city road. We created some pedestrian and bicycle bridges, renovation of the cables. We realize docks promenades. We are creating new parks, and we are also busy with one of the largest brownfield sites in Belgium with very heavy decontamination because it was the old harbor area. So not going to explain all of them. Maybe the most important is to know that we are in all of those elements, we are trying to bring something new, something innovative. For example, the bicycle and pedestrian bridges in Batavia, the first one and the second Matadi bridges, and not only just the bridges. Those are bridges who are moving up and down when there is traffic on the water. The bridges are designed by Fartingen architects from Paris, and they are really working well. We also chose to have them wide enough, 6 meters wide. They are over 100 meters long. By this, we can also have it like a bridge who is also part of a public space. You can stay there. You can, for example, see a movie on the other side of the bridge or just enjoy a nice view. The other works which we did last year was very quick starting to build some public spaces. We are also doing this with a lot of cooperation with inhabitants, looking well what's really necessary in the neighborhood. Here you have some examples of the promenades, of the cables, and here down we have one of the last and the largest realization of a park in Houdok. Gives you a little bit of the scale of the project. And the same moment, we have a lot of elements of cranes and some small heritage and maritime elements, which we are trying to reuse and to give them a new space, a new function in this project. You can see here, there are already several of them are standing, and they are giving this area already today more vision about what it was looking like when it was really still a port area. And at the same moment, those cranes can be used in the future by inhabitants, for example, of having as a meeting point, or for having all kinds of artistical or other activities as well. For example, flea markets are happening around the square, the cranes, or the artists are using them to even to put some artistic intervention on it, or even to put the lines between and to walk the lines between the cranes. And at the same moment, the cranes are put it this way, that already today, without having everything built, when you walk in the area, you know that there is always a green area in front of such a crane, and between are coming those future buildings. Then the next picture, before we started with realization, we also found out that it's very important to put this project on the mental map of inhabitants. And we started very early with all different temporary uses areas. We had like 4 different ones. by giving this to all kind of organizations, we let people better know this area, and the old dockyards already became a part of the city, even without being yet a city and completely constructed. And how they are doing this, some images. We had, for example, one of the largest drive-in cinemas, or just a beach for children, small concerts, huge flea markets, or urban farming. So, for example, producing together food with all people from the neighborhood, and then selling this to the neighborhood. By this, we also try to create kind of cohesion, maybe between the future inhabitants already. It's maybe nice when you buy here a house and afterwards you found out that maybe your children were playing together already during the time of this temporary use as well. The other part of temporary use, we found out that there are a lot of young people, youth living in Ghent, students, but also children, and there is a lot of there are a lot of places who are needed for street art. So the old gravel pits, before being reconstructed, we painted them in a white paint. We provided some openings, and we just gave them to the neighborhood. So today, if you want to learn, or if you want to do graffiti, you are just welcome there. But not only this, it's happening. Students of photography, for example, are having their exhibitions, or there are even small parties going through. So this is like a huge gravel pit who is given into the neighborhood just to for young people to hang out and to make maybe some funny things by graffiti, but also just enjoying this space. To give you an idea, this is more than 250 meters long, and so it's a quite big scale. And before we are really going through the plans into really buildings areas, we are doing this, of course, in phases. We are trying to connect people as much as together around the table and talk about how those new plans are going to look like. For example, here you can see a picture of more than 100 people who get together on a Saturday morning, and they were discussing all different ideas of 3 developers who were chosen to build here more than over 400 dwellings. So this was really working very well, although was from the politician side of view also a lot of being in fact afraid of showing already those kind of far design projects and ideas by developers to the inhabitants. But we were really trying with this project to reach a kind of dialogue with everyone and to be open and free in communication. And in the end, this was not important for us. The inhabitants didn't have to give points, but we just wanted to hear from them in which kind of those 3 last developers teams, those 3 different ideas, in which of them they should feel them the best if they are going to come to live here. So the winning project was of Schippersky development, and they won this project not only because of nice architecture and urbanization, but also because it's one of the very innovative projects who is proposing synergy between the energy and reusing of the water. We have here some schemes. It's quite technical, but in fact, you just have to look to this drawing, and you have to imagine that everything of the black water of the toilets and is going to the big reactor, who is creating green heat, and then the green this is giving as well warmness, heat as electricity to the households, and at the same moment the factory who is here in the neighborhood, who is pumping today a lot of heat into the air and using our city water, who is very good quality in the production process. they are going to receive cleaned water from the shower from this neighborhood, and in the return, this heat who's going up into the air is going to put it together into the area as well. So this is a very nice example of putting the area next to industrial area and trying to join and collaborate together. And okay, this is the picture how it's going to look like.
Agnieszka, 1 minute.
Yes, 1 minute and the 2 last slides. So the education, the old docks means also new schools. We have at that moment two. The Melope is a primary school and nursery, and the campus Artevelde school was going to arrive there. And why they were so special? Because the Melope is a primary school with the music in the school and the sports hall for the neighborhood. So this very special design of Xavier de Heter architects provide not only a very nice school environment for those 180 pupils as well, but they also provide the sport hall who can be used by neighborhoods after the school hours, in the vacation time, in the weekend, and so on. And in the same moment, it's a school who is putting music in the central education role. So by this, the people who are living there and children who are going to the school are going to meet each other. And the second school, it's a campus who is going to be built by Artevelde University College Ghent. This is having an idea that you are going to create the neighborhoods in the campus in the neighborhood. How it's going to look like, we do not know yet, because this is also competition. So today we are waiting for those examples of the architects and developers. But it's very important that here the campus will bring the neighborhood to the campus. The students are going to be trained together with the neighborhood. And in the same moment, there's going to be also a place given to the local residents and organizations in the campus. So this is like really a new idea of university college, not working isolated, but creating and being a part of the social and cultural and economic fabric of the neighborhood and the city. And as the last slide, I'm going just to finish with this picture. You can see everything is under construction. We are really hard working on this project, and I would like to give you an idea for now, not to be afraid to introduce a white space, a space without a decision, without destination, without a vision, just open space in those kind of city regeneration projects, to have an open mind and to give a space for an experiment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. I think that it's a really, really interesting project because we will have now with Miguel and Annibale other different points of view on this topic, on the relationship between city and education. But in your presentation in the project by Ghent, it's a very interesting, at least two dimensions. The first one is the use of the regeneration process for the old dockyards as a process of reappropriation of the community of that space, and in this along this process is a process of re-educated people to rediscover or even discover for the first time that neglected part of the city. And so I think it's very interesting to use from a certain point of view, a very classical urban development project or as a learning process. And the second dimension, interesting in my view, is the final initiative of the initiative that you presented in your final slides of the new school open to the neighborhood. And this I think also this notion, the concept of white space, like a space open mind for experimentation and learning, as you said. So I think it's we can extract from your case, from the case of Ghent, very very interesting remarks for our our topic. So thank you, Agnieszka.
Thank you.
And now the floor is for Miguel Jaenicke, that comes from Madrid, from Viveros de Iniciativa Ciudadanas, that perhaps means something like incubator for initiatives from cities for the citizenship, or for the initiatives of citizens in the city of Madrid. So now I think Miguel will explain us what VIC actually is, and this idea of building learning communities through the project of Mares Madrid, that was a project promoted in the framework of urban innovative action from the Municipality of Madrid. Miguel, thanks for joining us in the park of Madrid, fantastic location. Congratulations, and we will share your presentation. Please, Miguel.
All right, so thank you, first of all, thank you, Claudio, for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And as you said, I'm in the park right now. I don't know if you can see through the screen. I want to share a scene in the park in Madrid. We're really happy because we are enjoying the city right now, and we are enjoying the city. After almost 1 year of COVID pandemic here in Spain, now we got the chance to get the fountains open again, and all the kids are charging their water guns, and they are playing the water war. We are celebrating also a birthday here in the park with some friends, and this is something very special for me because we are practicing the city and we are enjoying the city, and we are doing what we defend every day. So we have to fight against our thoughts when we think saying to our kids, don't do that, don't do this. We need to do things in the city. We need to practice the city, and we need to enjoy the city. And this is a good moment after a very tough year, after 1 year of pandemic. Now we are feeling that we are recovering our city, our fountains, our public spaces, our social spaces. And this is very important for us. So it's a very special moment for me, and I want to share with you. So yes, as Claudio said, can you put the next slide, please? I want to share with you one very simple but powerful idea. And whatever the project we need to do, whatever the project we need to work with, we need to find the natural allies in the city to work with. We have a specific and certain education. We are architects. I am part of a urban innovation platform based in Madrid. It's called VIC, Vivero de Iniciativas Ciudadanas, which is exactly the same translation that Claudio says. It's like a citizen initiative nursery. And we found that we have our own skills, our own tools, which are from architecture, which are from the academic and the School of Architecture in Madrid, but that there are plenty of different ways to self-organize and collaborate within the city, in urban gardens, in self-management spaces, in assemblies, in different organizations. So we wanted to know how those organizations work with, how they share their knowledge, their practices, and we need to work with them. So the first point when we start a project is to find the natural allies. We cannot do the projects alone. We as an expertise, we cannot do the projects alone. Even we have the budget, even we have the resources or the municipality or the institutional support, we need to work with others, and we need to collaborate, and we need to integrate different point of views. So we have a lot of different tools and different methodologies to work with people, and we find the natural allies in the territory to work with. But one of the most powerful is this slide, which is called civics.cc. This is a digital platform, a map, where we can gather alternative practices in the city. So far, we map almost 6,000 initiatives all around the globe, especially in the Latin American region. And we are mapping an alternative, emergent, and informal practices in culture, urbanism, architecture, art, politics, mobility, gender, and so on. So you can find the local ecosystems in every city, and you can realize which are the natural allies, where are the ecosystem, how it works, and how can I join them, and how can we work together. I encourage you to browse the webpage and to see how fantastic different ideas can you find in Argentina, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, Panama, Mexico, and wherever you can find self-organized communities that are working for the city. They are self-organized and they are sharing values like community, collaboration, equity, networking, social justice, sovereignty, recovering, proposing alternative to the main market and to the main neoliberalist market, when we have to pay for everything and when we have to share our data and give our data or our money to different big companies. We are trying to understand and discover alternatives for a different living, for a different strategies in order to change our cities and face the challenge of the future. Next, please. This map, we are trying also to represent in every city, in every local ecosystem, this ecosystem. We need to find these local allies. We need to know where they are, what they do, who they are, what they need. We need to work with them. And we need to know if they need institutional support, funding, spaces, collaboration, different profiles, complementary entities for a consortium, for a project. So it's very important to know this. And the sad news is in every city, we found that the neighbors, they don't know what the local people are doing. I mean, we are like a parachuting. We are going to different spaces and we discover this local ecosystem, but the people who lives there, they don't know what their neighbors are doing. And this is very sad. So we need to realize our own assets, our own values in our city. Next. So once we have the map, once we have this ecosystem, which is our ally, which we can work with, we need to keep going and we need to find a way to continuing collaborating, because the map, it's only the beginning. It's only the starting point of a new process. The map shows a picture of our city, of a different layer, of a different information from a tourist map, for example, and it's the starting point to work with. But we need to keep going, and we need to engage those people and those organizations in our projects and in our thoughts. So this is what we call the learning communities, the practice-oriented learning communities, which is a period encounter with all the organizations and all the people to share information and share knowledge and share practices we are interested in. So the main aspect of the learning communities is that there is no expert. all of us are experts. So we have to avoid the classical education where we have a teacher who is the expert and he spread his knowledge to the rest of the people and the rest of the people just hear and learn. No, every one of us are experts from the user point, from the developer point, from the technical point, from the politician point, from the potential beneficiary point. So all of us are experts and we can share and we must share our point of view and our situation and our situated knowledge, and this is the enrichment of the education and the community. Next, please. So these encounters are called learning communities, and this is our fuel to our project. We used to set up these encounters once a month or once every 2 weeks. And we need to join in the community all different profiles which are somehow connected with our project. It's the so-called stakeholders. So we need to prepare a periodic encounter every once a month with all the stakeholders and share the information. Not only share our values, our thoughts, our assets, we need to share also our troubles, our challenge, our problems. This is the community which is supporting the project, which is really involved in the project. Next, please. So this community has to be created, and you need to call the people, and you need to create a database, and you need to prepare a baseline information for everyone. The mapping process, which I talked in the beginning, is the perfect starting point to have this database. But we need to create this community by adding new people, adding new material, new knowledge. Of course, inserting expertise, different profiles, presentation, inspiring ideas. And we need to create a route map for this community. But this community, if it works good, it gives us a lot of value for our project, a lot of value in terms of relevance of our projects and the key points. It could be discovering the future challenge and the future troubles we will find in our route map. Next, please. Also, the learning community has a core group, which is, of course, the people which is involved in the project, and they have paid for that. Also, our expertise network, which is collaborating with us, the direct beneficiaries, the stakeholders, but we need to somehow be involving more people, more communities, more organizations in order to spread somehow our work and have some inputs and outputs to this community. Next, please. So this community has to be adapted to new times, and for sure during the COVID pandemic, we need to integrate the digital dimension. We prefer the physical dimension of these encounters because there's a physical language, there is a physical connection, a complicity between agents and stakeholders, which is really important. The personal is politic, the personal is totally involved in our professional work and our project. But during the COVID and for the future, for sure, we're gonna have to manage with the digital dimension and the video conference with this community of practice or learning communities. And it works pretty good. I mean, I really encourage you to try because it's a really nice experience. Next, please. So the learning communities could have different dimensions. It could be a productive community if we are trying to create a new cooperative, for example, to develop a new service, a new good, new, let's say, business void or business challenge. It could be just accompanying people in order to create their own organization, in order to create a legal status, or not to disappear, because all these organizations are really precarious depending on public fundings. So there is different dimensions, and we need to know where we are and which kind of purposes and objectives are we following. Next, please. It's important in the learning communities to create a final product. And the final product is somehow the object which transcend the communities. The communities could disappear in the future, but they need to know and they need to share heritage for all of us, a legacy. And this is what we call the final product. It could be a guide, it could be a map, it could be a project, a picture, a book, a publication, a video, a web, a final object which compiles and gather all the information which is worked, all the practices, all the knowledge which has gathered in the community, and share it to other projects, to other territories, to other periods. It's the fixed information which we are sharing with the world. Next, please. So here are some
Miguel.
pictures of different learning communities. Yeah, next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, here you have some bibliography, learning communities for Etienne Wenger. He's the main theorist of these practices. We are just transposing these ideas to the urban innovative ecosystem. So I, again, encourage you to try to work in your local projects with learning communities. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for your presentation. I think very interesting, this point of view of learning communities and some ideas that you presented. For example, the idea of all of us can be expert, a part of our specific expertise, but we are expert in producing usable knowledge. And I think also this final idea of having a final product and an output of these learning communities is important in order to address and to define what a learning communities can produce, and at the end having, yes, a final result and an output for policies. And so and also I think the importance of upscaling the project, upscaling the initiative, not just having a map of different initiatives and projects, but also try to, yes, to upscale and to combine them into something more, perhaps more consolidated, like a learning community, for example. Okay, thank you very much, Miguel, really. And so the floor is now for Annibale from Milan Municipality with the project of Scuola dei Quartieri. And thank you, Annibale, and please.
Ciao a tutti, everybody. My name is Annibale. It's a strange name coming from Africa, but well, thank you for the invitation, and I hope to give a useful contribution in the debate within the process of co-design of the new European Bauhaus. Well, my job is the Director of Economic Innovation within the Municipality of Milano. And I'm gonna show you some information. I'm gonna share a brief presentation of this project that we launched in January 2019, more or less 1 year before the pandemic crisis. And sorry. Okay, please confirm me that you are seeing the presentation correctly.
Yes, see Annibale, okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, the name of the project is La Scuola dei Quartieri, and that can be translated more or less as the school of the neighborhood. And the subtitle maybe explain the sense of the project, the approach of the project. Sono I cittadini che fanno la città, che more or less means the citizen make the city, are the owner of the city. And the approach is not just to spread skills and knowledge in the neighborhood, but also to learn from the neighborhood tacit and rooted knowledge. It's an approach similar to the project of Madrid, more or less. And as you can see, the project is supported by European Social Fund through the POM Metro National Initiative. Well, let me start with some words about the context in which the project is born. And as you probably know, Milano is a city that is growing very fast, or maybe it's better to say that was growing very fast before the pandemic. Anyway, at the moment, despite the COVID-19, a large parts of the cities are in a strong transformation, and especially due to private real estate investment on one side. And by the other side, there's also a strong commitment of the municipality I'm working in the field of sustainability, with intervention about mobility and energy and environment and public spaces and so on. But at the moment, we are also facing problems about an increasing inequalities. In other words, we have facing the risk that to find ourselves in a sort of city at different paces. By one side, those who run forward, and by the other side, who stay behind. And of course, I'm talking about part of the city, some district and not another, and of course, also part of community. So this is a project about education, but it's also a project about social sustainability of the economic development. Well, this is the question. It's a very easy question from which we started. This is our starting point. And the question is, if the city is changing, the citizens are observers or protagonists of this change. And probably there's another question that is a key point in our project, and is how to enable the creativity and the energy of the inhabitants of the peripheries, how to fill the gap of knowledge, skills and experience and money, of course, just to give them access to the opportunity of activation, to be protagonists of the economic development of the city. Of course, this is a very big question, and I think it is typical of all the metropolis in the Western world that are facing all the problem of the very fast development. And to find an answer, we were deeply inspired by, in my opinion, a beautiful tradition and a legacy of an experience carried out by the municipality of Milano since the 19th century, that are the civic schools of the municipality of Milan. In other words, in the important transition moment, for example, in the moment of big industrialization or a big immigration waves in the beginning of the last century, well, the municipality always invested in training and education for people. Public and free training and education, with the aim help the communities, to help the people to be resilient, as we can say today, to face the change, you know? And so we asked ourselves, okay, there's such a rooted tradition in the city, and how can we update this tradition? Or in other words, what does it mean today to help communities to face the change, to be resilient? And this is a picture of one of the historical civic school in Milan. And the answer that we're trying to define is the key concept of the project of Scuola dei Quartieri, very, I think, easy explained. We can define a civic and popular school of innovation and social entrepreneurship in the peripheral areas of the city. And is a project completely public, free and open to all without barriers of age, gender, nationality and qualification. A claim can be design skills for all as a tool to face change, to be protagonist of change. And as you can see to this picture, the tone of voice is very informal, is within the community, is not something, you know, top down, it's something that involves people. Well, where does all this happen? This is a key point in the project, because we call school, but it's not a building. There is not a school. There are no classrooms, because all the activities take place within the neighborhood and in the places where people every day live and work. For example, this is a picture of a workshop that happened in a municipality market in a common afternoon. And as you can say, the people attending are young people, elder people, inhabitants of the peripheries. Is something that involves people in the place where they live and work every day. Also to do shopping, for example. The aim of the project, of course, is ambitious aim, is to teach everyday people to design. I think that design is probably the key word, but design not as a skill for postgraduates, but in the sense of teach people how making things happen. In fact, the target of the school are informal groups of citizens that bring ideas and proposals about their neighborhood. And we help them providing easy money with the micro grants and a high-level training and mentoring and a support community. And the goal of the project is to create new organization, new services, new project useful for the neighborhood, but all projects designed and realized directly by the inhabitants themselves. And this is one of the tools that we use during the workshop. As you can see, there's an use of design tool for helping people, for inspiring people. So just some keywords about the activity. First of all, every time we start a course, there's an open party, because it's very important that people have fun to learn better. And of course, we do workshops and meetings and open call for informal groups and training path. We also pay micro grants of 25,000 euro just to prototyping their ideas. Then we support the groups with mentoring services and also a support community. But let me underline that the importance of non-conventional training methods. For example, I love this picture because these are the tarots of the Scuola dei Quartieri. designed by the Politecnico di Milano. This is one of the partner of the project, and that we use is a system that we use during the workshop for engage people and generate new ideas and inspiring the participant. So it's also a funny way, to engage people. When COVID-19 arrived, we were at the end of the first educational cycle. And so we were forced to move all the activities online, unfortunately. But let me underline, so we used the virtual tours and online meeting and lessons and web app and paper guide and social network and so on. But let me underline one key point. The crisis has also given us the opportunity to use the school to find, to discover, and to support some very interesting experience like mutuality and solidarity and self-help born during the dramatic days of the lockdown. So was you can imagine to teach design methods to people that simply decided to help one to each other in the middle of the COVID crisis. So you can say the idea to be rooted in the life of people. And this is where we are in 2 years and a half, and in the middle of the COVID crisis, we carried out more than 70 meetings in the neighborhood, involving more than 2,000 participants and 3 open calls, 187 candidate ideas, and 69 selected groups, and more than 200 participants in the training advanced path. And let me underline that 60% were women. And so this is very important for us. 40 new nonprofit organizations created by the participant, and €1 million grants paid at the moment. Well, that's all. And you can find more information about the Scuola dei Quartieri on the website, lascuoladeiquartieri.it, and you can find also a brief description of all the project founded by Scuola. And in the lower part of the slide, you can find also the list of the organizations involved that are high-level organization in the field of social innovation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Annibale, for your very, very interesting presentation of this project that Avanzi too was involved, actually. And I think that a very, really an interesting initiative in terms of how to, as I said, Milan Municipality always in its history has tried to use education and civic education to train and to, I think, also to empower people during some turning points of the history. Yeah? And so in this moment, trying to build and to create a school for social innovation and to help people that want to make the first step forward the creation of something, a new initiative, new service for neighborhoods and for the city, and particularly for problematic area neighborhoods of the city are the target of this initiative. And also, I think one of the opinion that Annibale expressed in which he said design is a crucial word, no? And I think it's one of the key points of your of the reason for which I think this kind of initiatives is very consistent with the European Bauhaus, not just for using the word design, but also for the use of the word design as a tool to create, I say, sophisticated project, not just project of social, but also rich projects. And most of them, I know most of them are really rich and problematic project, in which, I mean, the quality of the design, of the project design is very high. So I think that for this reason is an initiative very coherent and consistent with the idea of the European Bauhaus. So thank you very much to Annibale, and now we have around 30 minutes for our second session. In order to, I would like to discuss with Annalisa, Alessandro, and Mario these projects that we presented. If they want to make some, hi Mario, and they want to make some comments, but I won't try to introduce this session, just saying that we have selected these initiatives, I think, because they can offer us a specific and very different points of view concerning the relationship between city and education. But I think that we can understand that according to an urban perspective, education is not more a specific policy sector, but is an urban policy. And in this sense, it's a cross-cutting, multidimensional, and integrated policy. And I think also that when we link education to the urban regeneration and social inclusion initiatives, I think that also we could understand that education is also empowerment, and I think strictly linked to even to advocacy, no? Because through this initiative, through these policies, we empower people in order to yes, and we advocate for a change and for the people. And the relationship with the city, of the people with the city, is a creative relationship in which we learn, not just we learn into the city, but we learn through the city. I think that Ghent, Madrid, and Milano expressed clearly this idea. No? We learn thanks to the city and through the city. And so the urban condition is a very fruitful condition for learning. And so from our point of view, from the point of view of Avanzi and Milan Municipality, we think that the European Bauhaus is strictly consistent with this idea, if you understood well that the European Bauhaus is an usable tool, no? Is a field for experimentation. So we have presented some social experiments in the city. So I open the second session, asking to our discussant if they want to add some comments to this project, and also if we want to make some remarks or some suggestions concerning this relationship between education and the city, and around this basic idea that we try to promote, to argue that education is an urban policy, no? And at what extent you think that it can represent a fruitful perspective for the European Bauhaus. If you know, for example, some other initiatives, project policies in the European context that we should consider in our explorations around this topic, and etc. So please, and perhaps starting with Annalisa, if you agree, I think 5 or 7 minutes, not more, for each intervention. Thank you, Annalisa, please.
No, I was really so much inspired. These are all cities from our network, so it's really, I'm proud to be able to, to be part of this and to, in a way, support them. So super inspiring. Maybe I mean, I think it's fundamental, and it's really connected to the new European Bauhaus, all the things that we've heard, because there's, you know, empowerment, there is the learning community. But I also wanted to bring back a little bit the formal education element, because I know that you know, we have to move, and we are moving, and the trend is to really look into the sort of you know, informal learning and so on. But I think that there's a lot to do also on the more sort of formal education, and evolve and innovate that as well. So if we bring back the sort of three elements of the new European Bauhaus, if you think of inclusiveness, you know, beauty, whatever, space, and sustainability, I mean, you can really look at education as an element that can really flow across all the elements. But I mean, the sort of even formal education as a complementary form to the sort of non-conventional, as we've heard. And so also, because as Eurocities, and maybe Mario can complement or say things in that respect, as Eurocities, it's also interesting to share, you know, how, for instance, inclusive education can do, or how inclusive education done through, you know, the action of local authorities can be actually an essential element of the new European Bauhaus, you know, approach. And so if you look in this respect, across Europe, you have different competences in the field of education, from preschool, primary, secondary school, to, you know, down to vocational education training, adult education, so the whole life. And of course, even the responsibility between, you know, in different countries of the municipal level is different. And, you know, in general, cities have share a competence with their region and their national level. But at the end of the day, if you look, the trend in recent years is that cities are doing more than what they are legally responsible for, especially in order to meet the need for inclusive education, you know, for the different, you know, all the diverse population that, you know, our urban areas are, you know, having, are those population that live there. And so cities tend to do more than what they are legally required to do, because they are faced with the needs in their local communities, and they take action to cover gaps, and, you know, even in education provision for different types of people, like people with disabilities, for instance, or other types of groups that maybe are disadvantaged. And that I find the new European Bauhaus, you know, has pushed as a concern very much in this respect. So I think in this sense, if you know, within their competence or even beyond their competence, in a way, cities can really use even formal education in, you know, moving towards a new, you know, creation of the creation of new types of spaces, a new type of educations, and so on. So in a way, not only cities are organizers and providers of education services, for instance, but they have a very significant role, as I said, in fostering social inclusion, equal opportunities in education, and so on. And so, as I said before, this for me is really a strong element of the new European Bauhaus. But cities also manage education infrastructure. So all the stuff that is around building new schools, new spaces, modernizing existing ones, looking at the public transport to go to schools, local libraries, all these, the sort of recruitment of teachers. I mean, they can really rethink a lot of things. They can use those let's say, competences to change things, to you know, move things in a different direction. And so, you know, as the last point, and this has emerged very much in the in all the three cases, cities can help in you know, facilitating a more integrated approach to education, but working with, you know, a new type of governance. So, you know, having all the services coordinating, but also in trying to facilitate cooperation between all the different stakeholders, those that are visible, those that are not visible, you know, helping people to connect to each other, the ecosystem that is, not in the radar, and so on. So this can be, it's a new role for local authorities that needs to be looked at. So that's one aspect. But if you look at education, the other, if you look at the other pillar of the new European Bauhaus, which is more like the sort of sustainability element, and how the new European Bauhaus wants to, in a way, bring the sort of, this element very much in terms of the spaces, in terms of the, all the life, the creation of a city and so on, is this connection to the sustainable development goals. So education and the sustainable development goals, education and the Green Deal, it's very much, it's super important. So looking at a new way of, looking at education around those concepts, because, with education being an essential tool for sustainable development, some cities are really looking at, adopting a long-term perspective, and they're building support for sustainable development initiatives. And they really, for instance, introduce the concepts of the SDGs from really early in educations, but also in activities with citizens in the co-creation of public policies and everything. So it's really like you have but hundreds of examples where, the sort of element for sustainable development goes into this education, learning, how do you say, ownership, building and things like that. And is very, very impactful. I'm thinking, for instance, of all the work that I'm saying that because we are in Milan. So with ASVIS, that work for me was really, really important in terms of changing the sort of concept of sustainability education, and so looking at things like that, I think in the future will be really important. And I was also pointed to the famous I don't know if you know it, the Education for Climate Coalition. That's a really interesting coalition in a way that was launched sometimes like a couple of years or 1 year ago, that really shows how it's really important to see this connection between education and pushing forward the fight against climate change and the sustainability element of the new European Bauhaus. And so looking at the green skills, the issue of green skills development, how can teacher really be trained in a completely different way, looking at promoting behavioral change through education, and as well linking education with science to make people understand why things are happening and what is happening, and generally collective awareness raising and appropriation, I always say, but ownership of what's going on. So yeah, I think the new European Bauhaus can merge everything, all these elements, have education that cuts across all types of education, basically education across all your life, and with a broad concept of it. And maybe our working group vice chair can say something to complement me.
Okay, thank you very much, Annalisa, and also to say for your remarks concerning the importance of formal education in this topic that we try to promote and to frame, and I think also on the infrastructures of the school, the importance of the competencies that the cities have concerning the buildings, and the opportunity to redesign or at least to reuse some of the buildings for the schools in terms of new relationship with the city and with the neighborhood and the local community. So and finally, surely the sustainability and ecological transition, environmental transition is crucial. Also the educational dimension in this transition. So from Annalise from the General Secretary of Eurocities, to Annalisa, to Mario Bischof from Leipzig Municipality, that is vice chair of the working group on education from Eurocities. So please, Mario.
That's right. My name is Mario, and I'm from the city of Leipzig. There I work in the fields of educational monitoring and urban development. And since 8 years, I'm part of the working group education. And since autumn 2020, I'm vice chair of this working group. First, I want to thank you, Claudio, and the colleagues from Milano for the invitation and the organization of this international event today. And I have to admit that also your topics and your questions are very up to date. These are questions that I'm hearing always around our network and also in the education working group of Eurocities network, but also on national networks in Germany and the question of educational landscape and educational management. I think we've heard some very nice and good and inspiring examples today, and the presented case studies showing us some important things. The first thing I want to point out is that participation is a very important thing in creating educational landscapes and creating urban spaces. The second point is that we have to open our schools for the neighborhood, but also vis-a-vis, we have to open the neighborhood for the schools and combine neighborhood and schools. Then a thing that Miguel added from Madrid, we have to find our natural allies to create this local educational landscape. We have to find the actors who are in the field and bring them together. I think this is the most important role of cities while creating landscapes. Of course, next to building the schools and the formal educational institutions. At least we as European cities have to find answers for the questions of growing cities, but also of growing polarization and segregation in our cities. I can add to the examples that we've seen today that in our working group education, there are lots of cities who are similar approaches and going similar ways. And I can only underline what Annalisa said, that we all have different systems and different responsibilities for all our educational systems, but in the end, we all face the similar challenges as European cities. There's one thing I've learned in my years in the working group education. There's no silver bullet for these issues, and on the other hand, there are many roads that lead to Rome, at least not all, but the most of them. But there's one thing that nearly all good and best examples have in common. There's a person or a vision behind the idea that comes with dedicated staff and a clear leadership. And if you take this as a conclusion, then our job as a city is to support these people who are doing the educational or the social work in the neighborhoods. We have to listen to them and try to respond to their local needs. Mostly it's the people who are working in the field and in the neighborhoods who knows best what their institutions and their children, young peoples and families are needing the most. Yeah, this is the global point of view that I can add to this discussion. There are some things we have in Leipzig. They're not special in Leipzig, but as I said, it's in the most European cities. We are growing very fast. We have to build lots of educational institutions. And in the 21st century, you have to ask yourself how to build these schools, how to build future-proof schools. A few years ago, the Montag Foundation published a book in Germany about planning and building schools. I'm afraid it's only available in the German language, but it has a lot of nice pictures and things in it to have a look. And this book starts with a very clear message. It says, in our schools, we are educating our children today for the 21st century in building from the 19th century. So our task is to recreate the schools and bring new aspects of pedagogical architecture in the schools. That means basically that the classroom has to give the space of varied ways of teaching. Mostly classrooms in Germany, schools in Germany are very teacher and classroom orientated, and this modern classrooms has to take in account that the classroom is the third educator, and it has to give the possibility of various ways of teaching, in class teaching, but also in small groups and individual learning communities or peer learning communities. Also, the future-proof school has a multifunctional use. There should be other actors who are using the school buildings. We have to build neighborhood and community schools, bring the neighborhood in the schools, but vis-a-vis that I mentioned this before. And at least we have to find an answer for the social segregation with our educational institutions. And there's one way to create resilience is the social mix in the educational institutions. And often we as cities can put some lighthouse schools, very modern schools in deprived neighborhoods to attract people from all over the city to create this social mix. Yeah, this is what we are doing. We have now some lighthouse projects under construction, where we try to combine special design in deprived neighborhoods to answer both the new architecture in the meaning of future-proof school and to give an answer of social segregation and inequalities and inequities. So I hope I can once, when these buildings are ready, invite you all to Leipzig in a few years to see and discuss the results that we have created. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mario. Also to help us to focus the attention on the architectural aspects of the schools in terms of how to create a friendly environment or an environment that can address properly a new kind of education and relationship between students and teachers, etc. And the very important point of the social segregation that the schools can cope with and must cope with this social problem. Please have a look also to the comments because I think that most of them are comments with very important remarks and comments and suggestions, also bibliographical suggestions on this topic, and we could try to record also the comments and in order to catch the basic idea that in the comments are and that the comments provide. And okay, last. Sorry, Christopher perhaps as a question, but just a very quick question in order to introduce the final intervention by Alessandro Rancati.
Yes, it will be very, very short. It is only it's a comment to illustrate the importance of what Maria Bischof explained. We are facing a big challenge with the Green Deal. Is to change totally the society within no more than five years, perhaps. And we are now in this change. This involves the education of 3 generations together. And this started with school. This starts with students, young people, that we live in a very different environment within 10 years. And it starts with young children having influence on their family. Schools, renovations, school transformations, school outside of the classroom is a central point of the policy that should be developed in Europe. Otherwise, the neighborhoods, the villages, the city will not change. And it has influence on the enterprises that are building, have to build new offers and that are aligned with changing habits. So I wanted
Okay.
only to point that this focus is really systemic in the European Bauhaus approach.
Okay,
We are working on a program that is called Green Deal Eco Schools to address this challenge, connecting to all the existing programs. Okay, thank you. Please type your the website of your project if you want in the comments. And I think also we are developing very interesting discussion between the participants, for example, between Dirk and Anna Uttaro, concerning the relationship between the building dimension and the architectural dimension, the physical dimension of the school, and the importance of reform in educational system, etc. So very well, fantastic. Alessandro Rancati, please, from Joint Research Center, from the final comments.
Final comments.
No, just
yes,
whatever
of course.
you want, Alessandro.
Yes. No, I'll be super short and brief because we're already past the time. But I mean, first of all, thanks to everyone and to you in particular for all this effort, bringing these excellent examples together. They're all different, but they all share something that I would call this ability to start to think in ecosystems and to think using complexity as the center of the approach. We see, I mean, if you look at these three examples, but then also the other times, we see that we have always this search for coherence, but in an environment that is very heterogeneous. So it's different people, but that try to find coherence. So try to build around topics or challenges that make sense for everyone, and then this ability to make sense and then start action right away. So without big plans, without big even investment, but just with the ability to create this conversation that then create actions. There is this idea of having a cadence. So when we saw the example from Miguel in Madrid, where they say, well, we meet every month, and every month we have a discussion, and it's a form of advancement and it's a form of learning and so on. It's extremely important, no? And choosing the right cadence probably is one of the topics for us, and it's very close to one of the challenges that we have now as New European Bauhaus, to build the community of the New European Bauhaus. And we start to see that, we start to have more than 100 partners. We have members of the partners organizations. So we're really, expanding a lot. And we need to start creating cadence where we share all these learnings so that they don't stay in bubbles, but they create the necessary awareness of what is happening. I loved when Miguel put the focus on mapping what's around you, because it's so easy to get lost in looking, I don't know where, for what we're looking for, and then actually we discover that it's just in the next door or the next street. And so I think it's very important to get back to this idea that we need to start thinking in terms of using what we have at hand and thinking informally. So we've seen a lot of informal spaces, informal practices, informal ways of learning, and informal ways of teaching, and this is crucial, because whenever there is informality in an activity, it means that activity is based on trust. And so the more, in a certain sense, we allow informal activities to happen, the more it means that we're building, or we're discovering trust among the different people. And then we've seen the role of attractors, and when Annibale, I saw in the little poster, it's the first meeting plus aperitivo. Who doesn't go? And then you start an activity with a party, and that's exactly the idea, no? To enable this kind of dynamics based on finally the beauty of the experience. And in this case, beautiful is not anymore the final result. So we're not building beautiful as the end, but we're embedding beautiful into all the different steps of the process. That I think it's quite important. And the last comment that was I found quite interesting, this idea of risking at the very beginning, or at least at an early stage of the process, when in Ghent, Agnieszka explained that they invited citizens to discuss the projects of the builders, now the construction. I mean, that's very. I mean, I can imagine that people starting to sweat and say we will have any kind of protests and this and that. But then the ability to risk and to open these places and to open the conversation. In reality, it's a great opportunity, no? And sometimes you just need to risk a bit to be able to create the opportunities. So I hope that this is really more starting point for more discussions. I really invite you to follow and maybe be part of the growing community. And if you feel like, also submit your ideas or the projects to the prizes, because I mean it also makes sense to have visibility, so that this kind of example don't stay in among ourselves, but become example for everyone.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much, Alessandro. And also this idea of informality is an important aspect of this project, and perhaps of the project that the European Bauhaus wants to collect together, to harvest different ideas concerning and suggestions concerning informality. Perhaps Miguel for a final remark. Okay, please. Miguel, you are mute. You are mute. Okay.
Yes, sorry. I think it's really interesting what Annalisa said, and Mario also, about formal education. From my point of view, in a very, let's say, provocative way, it's that we should somehow, I don't know how, put formal education under Uberization. All the services, most of the services here in Europe are under Uberization, like vacation, holidays, mobility, everything is changing from property to services, from public to private. And this is a tragic moment for employment, for a global change, but also it's a huge opportunity for innovation. And all sectors are changing and are adapting. What happened to formal education? Formal education depends on public sector. They are not interpelled, they are not under pressure against these global changes of technologies, of global behavioral change. And things are changing. Even though public education and formal education is not adapting and innovating in this field, things are changing. You can, as you can choose whatever film you want to see, you want to watch in the TV, and you change your Netflix to your ancient TV, people now can see classes in MIT, wherever they want, and you cannot offer like a new and innovative content to people in presential and physical classes in Milano or Madrid or Leipzig. So we need to put somehow pressure to formal education in order to adapt and to be innovative. And they need to change, and they need to be closer to society. They need to be involved with social society. They need to talk about SDGs and global agenda and migration and urban challenge and all those topics. I mean, I see the formal education in my kids, and the education is like when I was a kid, like 30 or 35 years ago. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We didn't learn anything. It's the same. So we need to put pressure on education. We need to create a really innovative pressure on education. We need to Uberize, not have precarious employment, but put pressure on teachers, on schools in order to adapt. Otherwise, the United States, the MIT, and all these people, it's gonna, they're gonna eat the whole cake.
Okay, thank you, Miguel, for your final comment. And I think that I agree with you, the need for education to be reformed and to open the mind for the contemporary condition in which we are. Okay, so thank you very much to all of you, particularly to Agnieszka, to Annibale, Miguel, Mario, and clearly to Alessandro and Annalisa for their contribution. Very, very interesting. Thanks to all participants and Milan Municipality and Eurocities also for the support in the organization of this conversation. Please stay tuned, because I think in the next weeks we will elaborate a report of this conversation, trying to catch and to put in the final report, and to use also the valuable comments and contribution that you put into this conversation. So thank you very much to all of you, and please, bye, ciao.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao,
Ciao,
grazie
ciao,
mille, è
ciao.
stato bellissimo.
Ciao.
Ciao,
Grazie,
grazie.
Claudio,
bravi.
grazie mille.
Ciao.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci, grazie. Bye.
Ciao Claudio, ciao a tutti, veramente interessante, ciao.
Ciao Marco, ti vedo sempre senza schermo, comunque ciao.
Sì, grazie, la connessione è un po' così, grazie, molto interessante anche stasera, davvero tanto.
Grazie,
Grazie.
Grazie, davvero inspiring.
Enormi.